semi-final with all the history behind it this year. In previous years, KT Rolster never having missed a summer final since they debuted as an organization. SKT trying to make the first one ever from the wildcard match all the way to the grand final. Focusing on picks and bans. One thing to note, guys, it is dynamic side selection, but KT Rolster have the choice of sides in Game 1, Game 3, Game 5. Blue side won every game in their recent set, and they can ban away those blind pick mid laners a lot happier on the blue side. So that's why you see Cassiopeia and Lucian, the two most impressive performing champions from Faker recently, banned away on blue side.
All right, well, that's 2 at Faker. Were those 2 of your 4 that you were predicting, Bob Smithy? All right, well, we're on points so far. Let's see if we get a third. Go ahead and cut out the majority of those, or if they'll turn their attention to something else.
Those 2 are also picks that you don't see a lot from Pawn. He can play both, but he's played a single game on the Lucian, a victory, and a single loss on the Cassiopeia, so not high priority. The Gragas ban is interesting because Peanut in playoffs so far has played 5 games, and 4 of them were on Gragas, 1 game on Zac. Gragas' priority has been lower for the other playoff teams, which surprises me, given how powerful he is in the current meta. They're not willing to first pick him for Score, who may be the best Gragas player in the jungle of all time. That leaves Zac open, though, because Rakan is banned away. The Galio is forced. Elise is predictable. And Score moving past Zac would be a surprise.
I mean, this is also opening a bit up here for the side of SKT because the Caitlyn and the Kalista are both available.
Happening more commonly recently, and teams, interestingly, are prioritizing the Kalista higher because it empowers picks like this that you'll see from Wolf, almost certainly the Alistar. Ever since he moved away from the range supports that were a trend in the losing streak for SKT, largely been playing Alistar, and if he has to play a range support, it's ended up being, more often than not, the Kennen, just for a bit more lane performance, but still initiation. And speaking of initiation, pretty damn reliable between Alistar and Maokai.
Well, they're going to take these so far, so KT will get their pick of ADCs, leaving either the Caitlyn or Kalista available for Bang, or maybe he just forgoes it and goes for the Tristana.
It could be Kalista Thresh. Could actually be the Thresh coming out from Mata that very frequently is banned against him in the laning phase. Certainly is the most powerful support with so many different playmaking options. The Kalista will come through, but the reason you prioritize Kalista over the Caitlyn is largely to empower your support, so it has to be the Thresh.
All right, there you go. Get the duo locked in.
And SKT, if they want Caitlyn, they have to take it here, or it will be banned in the next round. Would be the most likely, but Tristana is the laning matchup into the Kalista, and Bang has been on a tear on Tristana recently, so I believe this may be our first game without Caitlyn picked or banned. Since very much the weeks, the week 1, week 2 of the season, we have seen Caitlyn perma-picked or banned. So very interesting, but a sign of the times. And Tristana does have that pushing power.
Yeah, she was very much up there, along the likes of, Zac and Elise, who came in at a 100%, 99% pick ban.
First ban is Trundle, so suggesting that it might be Maokai top from Untara, and taking away a champion that auto wins does allow the flex to be a bit more realistic, because if you leave Trundle up, you're going to have a bad time. Smeb largely has been having to face Huni when these two teams face off because they prefer to run Huni, who has much more micro skill, you would say, over Untara. When it comes to laning power, Smeb, Huni, and Khan are the top 3 in the league, but Untara has been more reliable. It's the first time they're opening with Untara against Smeb, so they don't want to allow Smeb an advantageous matchup, force it to be just trading teleports or playing tank into tank, then Untara will be a lot more comfortable.
Well, J4 going to be the follow-up ban here. That out of the hands of Smeb in the top lane. See where they want to go. Untara is still very heavily favors something like the Rumble. Could see that picked up for him if that Maokai is going to be in the jungle with Peanut.
Both of them, of course, are big Rumble players. Rumble could certainly be considered. Don't have to confirm where the Maokai is going just yet, though. The side of SKT, and Orianna is banned away. So that's going to be everything barring the Fizz that I underlined in terms of important Faker picks. They're going to choose a champion like the Fizz. It'll probably be a last pick, you'd imagine, so that would require Untara to confirm whether it will be Maokai top or not.
It seems like they might be moving towards that Maokai in the jungle as we hover over the Gnar. And they will just go ahead and lock this one in for Untara. So blind pick Gnar into the top lane. Let's see what Smeb's got ready to go.
I mean, how saucy do we get? Do we see the very famous Yasuo pick that So1 was able to win with the Jin Air?
Nope, it's just going to be Shen.
Just going to be Shen pretty instantly. Meb is an excellent Shen player. When some of these picks like Renekton aren't favored, he will jump on Shen 6-1 on the season. And first time we see the LeBlanc back for the side of KT Rolster. So LeBlanc blind pick for Pawn. If you remember back to the Grand Final or Springer Killers, you and I cast Pawn basically having to face every sort of lane counter from SKT. It was the Karma mid, Lulu way out of meta in the mid lane as an answer. Well, we just see Faker return to one of those two and be able to just nullify in the lane. Will he try to find a carry? Seems like it's going to be a carry matchup.
All right, haven't locked it in quite yet, so I won't get excited. Now I can get excited. All right, Kassadin. No Karma, no Lulu. We're just going straight over to damage. Kassadin locked in for Faker.
The meta changes, and so we get a carry matchup in mid. Kassadin has always done well against LeBlanc because of the magic damage shield. Q-Max, very low base health on the LeBlanc with the death by a touch to get decent trades in, but you also get the side benefit of the larger and larger magic damage shield. But it does mean that lane pressure in the mid lane for SKT will not be there like there has been so many times with the Lucian in playoffs, with the Cassiopeia largely as well. So different type of draft with SKT, where Peanut will have to make moves around mid lane to relieve pressure off Faker early.
Well, maybe Peanut's been in touch with Bengi as of late, knows what he needs to do, but this is one that we have to focus on. It's going to be that top lane. The Gnar blind picked in. Smed picks up the Shen as the counter. See how he's going to handle this matchup, because the Gnar, if he gets ahead, is going to be absolutely oppressive.
It's kind of fun that in top lane and mid lane you kind of have similar stories, but on different sides, where getting a Gnar behind makes Shen have basically a free lane. If you get a couple of 6-foot ganks onto the Gnar, he falls behind, doesn't his item timings, and then Shen can have a free lane. Kassadin getting ahead is basically the same sort of time bomb on the side of SKT. So the junglers have different lanes they may want to prioritize.
All right, well, let's go ahead, get right down to it, dive into this game. It's game one in a best of 5, a telecom war. In the semifinal, winner goes on to play against Longshu. Let's do it. KT Rolster versus SKT. Audience was a very slow trickle at the beginning of the hour when we opened the doors, but now the seats have been packed in pretty much.
These are the days you live for as a caster, Achilles.
When you're not sure which team that you
of watching KT versus SKT. The fans pretty divided, as you say. Not full yet, but it will fill up. Sold out in under a minute here at the Sangam East Stadium. OGN bringing you the semifinal, and Pawn bringing you a longsword start. He's going to be working his way towards the Gunblade, pretty standard as a first item, but he just wants to auto-attack down Faker because the magic damage shield doesn't help you against the extra AD from the longsword.
Solo queue is ruined again.
You say as Wolf starts the cowbell.
Oh yeah, got to get it going. You just hear it just fade out into the distance. Oh. No cheeky invades coming through from either side, just going to be a standard start as everyone fans out across the map. Limited vision here for either team. Go ahead and kick things off.
You notice the score is starting top side though, so maybe looking for a quick gank bot lane or to potentially invade onto the enemy red. Maokai very healthy in the jungle, but not the strongest skirmisher, and LeBlanc should have the pushing advantage. Speaking of pushing, we're already seeing KT invade onto the blue side. This is definitely a scenario to take away the enemy red.
Working their way through there, but the smite comes through, so Peanut will go ahead and secure the blue buff for himself.
Let's see how much AD Pawn is starting with, but the longsword obviously adding 10 to that number.
I can tell you that Faker has 61.
Thank you for that, Kilios. Reading comprehension check. Gotta get everything working at the start of game one, so appreciate it.
It's good. I've hit my optimal settings. I can read properly.
As long as you can read the team fights, everything's fine. That's all I'm asking for.
That's what I'm here for, baby.
Yeah.
Cap prep. All right, some exchanging going on in the bottom lane. Mata just looking for a little bit of harass as Deft fiercely pushes up to the end of the wave.
Pushing specifically in mid lane is going to be fine. Bot lane SKT should eventually be able to get an advantage. But level 1, Alistair is famously very, very weak when it comes to any sort of trade. Needs to have the all-in option. Thought that they would just engineer a red side invade for the side of KT, but it seems they just want to slow down the speed of Peanut and ensure that Score can go for a pretty greedy clear. Everything sort of the Gromp is being cleared, so he's going for the full clear here is Score.
Scoop up as much as possible before we see those long-range ganks come through.
82 AD at level 3.
Seems good. Though he is still the one taking the brunt of the damage.
That's the problem when you go Deathfire Touch Cast, and I mentioned it in Champ Select, you're so comfortable to just happily Q and then the Deathfire Touch proc, and Blanc doesn't want to take much regen. Just the refillable potion's not going to be ideal. That's why you see very one-sided in terms of the trades so far, apart from both of the potion charges being used by Faker.
Well, Ward in the river here for SK Telecom. Ready to spot out score. He'll come over the wall.
Don't believe he's spotted. He is now as he goes to kill the Scuttle Crab.
Nothing too consequential, though, as Peanuts on the other side of the map doing just that. Control Ward will go ahead and reveal that one there as the hook comes through, but it's not in onto Bang. Still takes a decent bit of damage from the Ren, but overall will remain safe. Score's not clearing this. Wants to try to play the mind games here with Faker. Allow for him to push up. Slingshot being channeled. Does he see the opening? Will be bouncing through. Doesn't have the knock up, and he's going to go ahead and miss the Q.
Yeah, I mentioned the stretching strike means that he's not able to get any sort of CC onto Faker pre-6, and post-6 things will get a whole lot safer the side of Faker. I'm mostly actually thinking about how the game will go as we start to get on to the mid to late game potion, because it's double teleport, of course, from both sides. Given that Faker should continue to have a very happy time in side lanes against the LeBlanc, and it's not like Shen is ever going to have kill pressure on a Kassadin. Feels like SKT's side lane options just get better as the game goes on, unless you can stop the snowball or even deny farm. That's why you're seeing multiple different members rotate around the mid lane. SKT is so happy with their late game insurance from both Kassadin and Tristana's scaling. They're happy to play a longer game.
I mean, it's going to be that much more difficult for Depth to try to keep himself safe when you have a Kassadin just rift walking onto your face. Not to mention the Tristana that can be leaping into the back line as well, if they should find her to be a bit unprotected.
Well, last time we saw Kassadin, it was a loss. Samsung Galaxy taking down SK Telecom as they went one by one trying to kill Ruler's Varus on the day, and you can go lifesteal pretty happily. Double lifesteal on the Kalista. Nice interrupt of the E there. It's okay.
He's still in the spot of bother, though. Flashes over to the other side. Go ahead and keep himself safe, but flash down for the Maokai, so a little bit less gank pressure available there for Peanut.
Peanut probably just going to be on the back foot, but if that means they're able to actually get a successful gank onto Faker, it'll be worth it, or even onto the Gnar to allow Shen a more happy time. Credit to Smeb being able to keep up and farm just fine in the Gnar matchup, but it gets much worse with items. Rose and Mallet Rush has become a lot more common on Gnars outside of the rushed Black Cleaver, because at least you have the health total to help you out in Mega Gnar form in team fights.
See which way Untara wants to go so far. Neither of the top laners have gone back to base. In the meantime, speaking of CS, Bang is sitting pretty severely behind Deft at the moment. We're just 6 minutes into this one, already 13 CS behind.
Just surrendering lane pressure to Kalista Thresh, double range. Alistair, if he goes all in, can easily be focused down early, so they understand that while Alistair can play all in and pressure early against some lanes, Kalista Thresh does not qualify as some lanes. It's one of the most powerful 2v2s. We very frequently see one of the two, and sometimes two of the two, banned away in pick and ban. So good to show respect in the mid lane, and that's the only small advantage that leads to the 500 gold. It is largely that Smeb is being able to stay so competitive in CS in the top side.
Faker taking the wrong side of that trade. Goes low, has to chug up on that refillable potion. So will be without charges, and seems like he's just going to have to make another very swift back. So far just has that blasting one in addition to the Dark Seal, so we'll see if he's able to get anything else. Seems like it might just be the boots. And alright, he's got a Sapphire as a crystal as well.
Just worry for KT Rolster if the game goes long. I'm thinking of what the game looks like in a 1-3-1. We know that LeBlanc will be pressured out by the Kassadin in the 1v1 as Horn picks up the blue buff. We know that Gnar is so happy just taking down turrets in the face of a Shen. So we think about the 3, and the 3 is going to be Tristana putting down the Satchel, taking down turrets, and you have the Maokai ultimate and Alistair both as disengage tools. So I feel like in a 1-3-1, late game SKT has basically the perfect setup. All about snowballing early to try to take them down as Untara is going for a bit of a damage trade onto Smeb.
Yep, still haven't seen the items come through from these guys. They've just been sticking around in the top lane thus far. Tara maybe just looking for one more wave to shove into that tower, and then we could finally see his items start to come through.
Smeb has almost always rushed Tiamat into the Titanic Hydra to have pushing ability on the Shen, remove the one famous weakness of him. Now that Sunfire is not commonly seen. Also not level 6 yet, but Just a similar sort of damage trade that we saw from Untara on the top side.
Yeah, it does go quite low. Didn't see the Fate's Call coming through from Deft, so weren't looking for the all-in potential there. Smeb finally starting to go on the back, as Untara just goes ahead and looks to deny a couple of minions into that turret.
Pawn's gone full Mad Scientist, just rushing the bilge water first. Doesn't need any ability power, wants to just lifesteal up.
Imagine he just like buys a Black Cleaver instead.
Oh no, Blade of the Ruin King. Come on, mate.
Or that's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah.
I just phased out on that one. Yeah, Blade of the Ruin King.
KT,
absolutely insane.
We outlined how the late game doesn't necessarily suit them, barring some excellent team fights. And that's why just taking down Drakes would be a nice start.
They will go ahead and have that one. Fate's Call's been drawn out as they throw Mata forward looking for Peanut. Takes a nice little sidestep. Wolf now does have level 6. Leap in comes through from Bang. They're looking for Mata. That's going to be the Stand United coming down from the Shan. As Wolf does go low. Still is in the fight at the moment, and Pawn gets locked down, but the Dark Passage will go ahead and take him out. Tara not able to arrive in time and didn't have anything built up in the Rage Bar, so wouldn't have contributed too much other than a slow. So no first blood, but Ocean Drake over to KT.
Yeah. KT pick up the objective. They're set up to take when they have the pressure lanes and also the Callista for the Ren secure. KT already used teleport to get back to top, so didn't have it to get back into lane, and that was, of course, the Stand United used. Ends up being not too much to talk about, but could be a preview of future fights. Faker's on the roam. They know that Smurf has flash up, so low percentage chance of a gank coming off.
And we'll just go ahead and peel back away from that one. Get back into the lane where Pawn is going to have this wave shoving through. This is scoop up this wave to try to remain competitive in CS because he has fallen behind just a slight little bit.
Pawn had those couple of games where he's playing the LeBlanc. Mentioned he's undefeated on the season. The sort of pick where in the last big games, against the other contenders, I always had LeBlanc underlined, but they didn't go towards it, and actually it was pretty frequently banned against KT. LeBlanc is a much bigger pick in other regions than it is in the LCK. Definitely not any LCS fans know all about this. But in Korea, it's largely been overlooked for the safer wave clear. No Galio available, of course, banned away against Pawn. It's a pick that has lane pressure against a lot of lanes, but Kassadin is one of the few that outscales pretty heavily another teleport mid lane user like the LeBlanc in basically every part of the game, and even has a safe laning phase. Nice lane ward, does spot score coming in. But the Kassadin does answer pretty safely for the entirety of the game.
Charges up the slingshot, but doesn't find the opening. Pawn didn't have an angle to go ahead and throw down the chain. In the meantime, Peanut is waiting in the wings. They know where he's at. They see the blasting cone get used. So he's pretty deep into the jungle, and they're looking for a pinch, but Mata is already on the roam to ensure his safety.
The adjustment you're seeing in Peanut's play is something that I think might be lost on casual fans, because Peanut started off this season famously with a negative win rate on SKT, even when they were doing well. Before Rift Rivals, he was not the preferred jungler. We saw a lot more of Blank in the earlier parts of the season. And him being able to play comfortably on Cinderhawk champions is the new thing, Achilles. He looked great on Zac last time they faced KT Rolster in Game 3, pulling off some excellent ganks. He's happy to stand back as a Maokai, give up camps, give up pressure when he understands the long game. And Cinderhawk junglers aren't about the early skirmishes like an Italy or an Elise. They're much more about looking at the long game. So Peanut being able to alter his mindset, take a back seat instead of having to be the primary carry, which certainly on a team with Faker is a very important thing to be able to do, is an adaptation that we've seen the last month and a half that shows another side to Peanut's already potent game.
And somehow he's been able to get the Zac twice now versus KT in the Telecom War, and then versus Samsung, who had, albeit one of the strangest drafting strategies that I've ever seen, giving up the Zac and the Caitlyn simultaneously.
Picks are being left open more and more. That's kind of been the thing. You're correct in that they were able to first pick away the Zac and get the Caitlyn as a bonus in that series.
Yet again ready to go, but Pawn still doesn't have an angle.
Teams have shown different priorities. The must bans do adjust, and the mid lane bans onto things like Cassiopeia have become a lot more common. And it just removes the flexibility of being able to ban the same red side champions every game like we saw for such a long time. The Callista, Caitlyn, Zac is much less common as red side bans and being forced on the blue side more because people didn't practice a lot of those champions when they weren't available. The Zac especially. But Score, this guy who we call a pathing jungler, who's always rewarded for his intelligence and his adaptations, for him to have Zac, who has so many different options in team fights for initiation, is a different kind of quandary for SKT to deal with.
Well, for now, been slow and steady, some skirmishing here and there, but no real avenues of approach for Score. even with that incredible range, the Elastic Slingshot has not been able to get into the mid lane on top of Faker. Mata going for the seal, doesn't quite have it. It was very close, but Faker able to go ahead and take that one away with a Force Pulse.
Does feel a bit like that window's gone, Achilles. The ganking the mid lane plan. He's got the Rod of Ages, so he has early health. His flash has been up the entire game. Riftwalk is available. I feel like maybe that time has passed, and when it comes to lanes to gank, SKT have double disengage in the bot side. And speaking of the bot side, Tristan is actually joining them. They're going to try and get first brick in top.
Yeah, looking for it, and they should have it right here. Go ahead and pop that tower, and then it's going to be SKT pushing themselves into the lead, albeit very slightly, just going to be 500 up at the moment, but this is what KT has desperately needed to avoid. Now they're going to look to transition this into a Rift Herald, which will very likely be another turret going over to them. Smeb able to get himself out of there with a Shadow Dash, but will not be able to contest this objective.
You say that, but we see LeBlanc walking up. Kallista's trying to group. Takes a long time to kill Rift Herald this early. A score finds Faker.
They'll just take a ride on the Blast Cone. So you can't contest the objective if they're not taking it.
That's fair.
See, I was just looking into the future.
You got the next level, you're doing some Faker level commentary right there. It's actually helpful if you talk about what's on screen. And speaking of on screen,
as Mata gets jumped on, but Fate's Call is there to go ahead and deny that damage to come through. A couple more shots onto that explosive charge. Would have been a kill going over to Bang. Would have been our first blood. But still will be eluding us for the time being.
SKT ending the laning phase and putting Tristan in top side at just the right moment does open up a gold lead that they were so far denied in standard lanes. 26 CS is not enough of a reward for Def when it comes to the global gold that SKT was able to pick up, and they'll just return to normalcy on the bot side of the map. No need to try to accelerate the game in the mid lane or anything like that. They don't have the ward coverage to make plays around mid lane, so back to a short 2v2 laning phase. Suits Bang and Wolf just fine.
And just steady as she goes, again, has been conceding CS very much to the side of Deft. You can see how far behind Bang is at the moment. Looking for a little bit of a trade. Big shot getting ready to come through. Score will be jumping in.
Interrupts!
Bang interrupted. Pops the shield, but it's not going to be enough. First blood does come through as it's handed over to Deft. Now they're looking for Wolf, as the ultimate's still available, as well as his flash. We'll go ahead and pop that charge his way out, but now KT going to be looking for their first turret here, 15.5 minutes in. Have the gold lead off the first blood, and they're just going to go ahead and add right onto it.
Yeah, one proactive move from both teams gets an advantage in the bot side, as Wolf will be able to get out. For SKT first with their rotation, now the bot lane turret is answered by KT, and KT have been able to incrementally chunk down the mid lane turret. They need to increase the pace of the game. All the things I was talking about where the game is going is 3-4 item territory. It's 35, 40 minutes. Now is just fine for KT. That's the first successful attempt at a gank from Score as well.
You're looking to interrupt onto the Dragon. Force Pulse does a lot of damage here to Score. Now Pawn arrives, has the chain to lock him down. We'll go ahead and jump away, and the Dragon will be handed over to KT. 2 Ocean Drakes for them so far. Mountain on the way. But Bang, very greedy play, going for the leap rather than just flashing, gets punished for it very heavily.
And it's not like Bang was tone deaf. He knew when Def walked up for such a one-sided trade that it was likely that Score was around. And there's always those untargetability frames on the W from Tristana where you override CC famously, like the rocket jump. Similar mechanic with the Ezreal Arcane Shift. Timing wasn't perfect, and the interrupt confirmed on the side of Score, and that led to the inevitable demise of Bang, who we should note has gone barrier this game, so has a bit more selfish shielding, and now they have the maximum value. So let's talk about barrier heal. What this means is that Bang gets the maximum level of sustain in any sort of a 3v2, any sort of a gank. He has the selfish shield, which is a larger health value than the heal, but he also gets the full value of heal, because if you run double heal famously, you get lowered effectiveness. So they have a lot of insurance between the two of them, and not enough to actually keep Bang alive.
So yeah, he's going to bounce back from this one. Still doesn't have the Infinity Edge, but is very close to this one. Going over to him in the meantime, Deft already does have that Blade of the Rune King completed, as well as the components for a Zeal.
KT seems surprised by the first aggressive rotation by SKT, but now it's back to KT's game plan. They had the largest gold difference at 10 in the league of 1,500 gold. SKT, for comparison, is only ahead on average around 90 gold at 15 minutes. They are right in the middle of the pack for early games. We're already at 18 minutes, so that stat means less. But KT Rolster are known to turn on the early to mid game. The mid game to late game was their big problem in summer. It hasn't necessarily been wholesale fixed, it's improved in the summer season, but they still have had very high-pressure games where they return to just over-prioritizing, engaging without full information late game, and can still throw away leads.
So they try to maintain this one. 1,500 gold in the lead at the moment is KT. Getting that first blood is quite nice. SKT, throughout the playoffs so far, have had 100% first blood rate versus the Afrika Freaks and Samsung.
One little factor I want to talk about again. It's coming back to heal and barrier, because it's so new when it comes to bot lane summon, as we've seen the cleanse and heal, for example, on Janna lanes. But barrier and heal also says they have no exhaust, they have no ignite. To me, it's a non-interactive, non-team fight summon. It's basically saying, we just want to go for the pushing 1-3-1 strategy and have barrier and heal plus the Maokai and the headbutt away to get out. So it's a get out of jail summoner's choice rather than a combat summoner choice. So I think it suggests they really do just want to focus on 1-3-1, get their items, and avoid fighting.
All right, well, seems like we have a pause coming through.
Seems like it's
what
on
the
the
issue is going to be. So
KT
yeah, seems
Rolster
like
side?
It might be score, or perhaps Smeb having an audio issue.
Headsets have been a bit hit or miss recently, unfortunately, we've found. So hopefully it's going to be a small issue. Not a lot of action so far in our game, as we're getting confirmation there's a little bit of a noise in his headset, so wants to get rid of the white noise. There's a noise in your headset too, OG and Legion. That's us talking. If that's annoying, apologies.
If you just noticed, then hey, welcome to the cast. Not sure how you were ignorant to this the entire time.
Faker just going for a bit of a yawn. Those days, again, I was reading just today. I believe it's that the SKT players wake up at 11:50 a.m., start their first practice block from 12 to 3, have 3 to 7 off, then play from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. So it's pretty intense days, around 13-hour days of practice. That was their adjustment after their struggles at Rift Rivals and after Rift Rivals, was they were going to play more. They gave up time off to practice more. They increased the amount of games and scrims, and you have to say it's paid off in the long run.
It really has. I mean, the bounce back that these guys have had has been absolutely crazy. 7-game win streak, six matches as a win streak here for SK Telecom.
And they're establishing a win streak while KT Rolster couldn't play. Their season had already ended after they lost to SK Telecom, and that's a different type of problem. Famously, Casson doesn't have much wave clear, so can at least get a bit of a chunk onto this turret.
Quite a bit of damage down onto it. Scores in the vicinity, looking for anybody to cut off. He's going to go ahead and jump in onto Peanut, has the ultimate, pulls him back. For a little bit more, Hook connects in onto Wolf, not onto the Maokai. It looks like Peanut will be going down. Couple more hits, gets the Sap Magic passive, and the Smite to try to keep him alive, but he'll go down in the end as Pawn finds the second kill of the game. Still 1,500 gold up. Is KT, finds the hook after the leap. Bang immediately has the flash away as well as pop the barrier. Now KT are primed to go ahead and knock down this outer turret in mid.
That hook led to barrier, flash, and heal being used between Alistar and Tristana. So 3 summoners. Beautiful stuff from Mata, who used both of them himself. Bang was on the outside of the fight, realized they wouldn't have Nara in position, did not want to commit, so they had to give up Peanut for free. We're 20 minutes in, not enough Baron damage to force that objective yet, and now KT Rolster on their own bot lane.
Yeah, and Tara still in vision, that ward about to expire in the brush. We'll be spotting them out. It seems like they're not that concerned with killing the Nara, just want to keep the turret alive.
Nontara went laning. He went Black Cleaver, which has not been the common pickup recently. It's been a lot more Frozen Mallet Rush. Last second there of the recall being channeled by Death. So notable that he's gone Black Cleaver, and certainly it goes back again to the summoner choices, the champion choices. 1-3-1 and no fighting is what KT want. Black Cleaver gives you the most in the 1v1. Doesn't have the same health total as Frozen Mallet in the team fight, but even if they're not able to put down aggressive wards for a team fight, that may not need to be a criticism for SKT in this particular game, because everything suggests that it's all about the turret destruction.
Oh, we take a look at Pawn's items here. Sheen has been purchased by the LeBlanc, so he is just going for quite a bit of annoying damage.
Yeah, burst. I mean, that's probably what it's going to be. Lichbane second is very possible in this particular game. Gives more turret pressure, just auto-attacking and getting procs onto Faker, doing mixed damage rather than the ability power that the magic damage shield does so well on the side of Kassadin. A lot of different things going on in this particular game. Sometimes you next level yourselves too far and it doesn't work. You know, there was no guarantee that the Janna with heal, AD carry with cleanse was going to work, but that worked a treat for MVP, and a lot of teams have copied it. Here SKT playing around with summoners as pawn, goes heavily into the AD side of itemization to help the laning phase, and 17 CS over Kassadin. Usually that's something you criticize, it's not big enough of a lead, but it's a Kassadin winning lane, a bit like the Corki lane is against LeBlanc, so he's doing fine, but the itemization certainly hasn't warped the game.
But KT yet again adding another dragon stack, this time a Mountain Drake, to help make up for some of that damage that the Callista doesn't typically offer onto the turrets. But 3 stacks for them, another Ocean on the way in 6 more minutes. KT can have 1 monstrous Elder Dragon.
So KT's best way to arrest some of the inevitability of SKT's late game is find a way to actually force teleports out and get a teleport advantage. Shen is very, of course, set up to have TP advantages in most situations with how Stand United works, but they can draw out both and actually have their own Sheen auto-attacker with Mountain Drake, Shen with Titanic Hydra push. That could be big, as finally we see Faker and Pawn in that mid to late game.
He's looking for the play, but the Stand United is there, as you're just talking about. The Shen Faker tries to make it over to that Honeyfruit instead, jumps into the pit. Might have to use the flash, does so to get himself out safely. In the meantime, Peanut throwing down that Nature's Grasp will get jumped on. The Ren comes through, and Deft finds another kill. 2 over to the Callista, 3-0. KT Rolster are in full control. Score leaping in, looking for a pick, doesn't find much. Just take that Dark Passage out.
Taunt Flash missed from the Shen, but they were able to get a pick onto Peanut anyway, who's had to be the sacrificial lamb a couple of times now. The reward for KT Rolster in terms of objectives will probably be this outer top lane turret, unless Faker can get there imminently. KT would love a Baron, but for now, that's still an objective too far.
See that he's stutter stepping. Wasn't sure if he had to cut down into the mid lane. See that on the mini-map, so that's just going to be the turret going over to Pawn with the help of that Sheen. So all 3 outer turrets now gone. KT Rolster in the driver's seat of this game, up 4,000 gold.
And they've righted the ship of the early game where SKT surprised them with first brick. If you pile on first brick, it would actually be about a 5,000 gold lead and really vindicate what KT have, the weapons they have in the early game. First brick is the only thing that hasn't gone their way, and because they took the first Drake so early, going to be 3 Ocean Drake spawns in this game, which isn't ideal, but the fact they're in the first 3, the first 2 are at least, does mean they're going to have a bit more regen to survive what can be some pretty punishing side lanes for KT Rolster.
In a very good spot. Frozen Mallet is completed here for Antara, so should have a better time here in the 1v1s, maybe be able to chase Smeb out of the lane.
The problem for KT is that when the easy objectives are gone, which represents the outer turrets, it's very difficult for them to get more because the control ward line is hard to contest around the enemy blue or shallower than that, and Maokai can still turn fights. Teleports from Kassadins and Nars can still turn fights. It's only in neutral areas like this where they can see this. Okay!
Oh, the hook is just going to go ahead, land in on the Bang, regardless, and now the Ren comes down. Deft will keep himself alive. The explosive charge not enough to find him, but they will find Faker. Another hook coming through. Riftwalk will not save you. It's a double kill to Deft. 4 on the board for him, and KT might just be looking at Baron 25.5 minutes
Mata
in.
has Death Sentence on a targeted ability this game because pulling off hook after hook. The Callista Thresh was the big duo they were able to get, and even though everything around them could potentially not work, they've managed to get the maximum value out of Callista Thresh. This should be the first Baron of the game. Peanut has gotten a lot of steals, but he smited down a Raptor. He's given up on this one.
And it's also Mata just waiting in the wings. You know that the death sentence is going to connect yet again. We'll just take a ride into the pit. The Ren comes through. Baron over to KT Rolster. 26 minutes in. Now up almost 7,000. We'll get another look at this gank.
Bang walks up. He's done this a few times, having faith in his summoners, but Score able to kidnap him out of mid-air after the hook had already come through. Then Mata decides, well, my work's not done here. I'm going to get another one. Hits the flay, and then actually hits the hook before the Rift Walk and still goes through it. Looks like it was buffered in many ways. They get the Baron buff, and now all the things we outlined about what SKT's draft does do not apply because Baron buff is the ultimate equalizer.
I mean, if you're Bang, I don't even know who you hate more in that instance. Do you hate Score or do you hate Mata, the deliverer or the catcher? In the meantime, Faker getting jumped on. Shadow Dash comes through, and he is just going to mount Smeb. Will take that kill for himself, and Faker does not look very enthused in the booth. In the meantime, the rest of KT knocking down this inner turret in mid. Won't quite be able to take it, but they're getting top lane simultaneously.
This piggybacking is working super well in the side, and they're going all in. Of course, they will lose a turret in the bot lane as Gnar can't follow this particular teleport play, but he actually has to recall. It's Baron buff, so they're able to make teleport plays because the expected outcome, if you get the gank off, goes way up. It's not just going to be a single turret, it's pushing into an inhibitor turret as well, and KT's map pressure is off the charts.
Well, that's two inners. Hook does connect, but Mana doesn't want to take a ride over the wall onto Wolf. Will get a decent chunk away from the Alistar. Still quite healthy. Seems like KT will be dissuaded for now. Very deep TP coming through from Faker. Down by the enemy Raptors. Will be charging in through the mid lane looking for a play, but he's spotted out, and that just might be the burn of
Yeah,
TP.
the minions are so important there to give them exact timing on where to go, so Mana didn't just run into Faker.
Faker, maybe in a bad spot, has to use the flash. Will be jumping away.
Meanwhile,
leaping back into the mid lane as they look for Untara, snatches him up, kidnaps him yet again, and delivers another kill onto Deft. 5th for him, 5-0 on this Kalista, and that's going to be the inhibitor going over to KT.
I mean, SKT have such a slippery draft, but it's a pick come from KT because of their amazing mechanics in this game. They have penalized them to the maximum with Thresh and Zac that can go oh so wrong if those skill shots miss. They've already broken the base super early in the game, and all SKT can do is watch on in horror.
Another hook coming through, looking for Faker, flays him back, but he jumps over the wrist walk. In the meantime, Wolf going low, Chains coming through, not gonna have the lockup, and Steph finds a massive Shadow Dash. Nature's Grasp thrown down by Peanut, but he is just likely to die yet again. Flashes away, gets locked down, another rend over from Depth, puts another kill on the board. A second inhibitor going down, and honestly, KT are going to be looking to close out this game 35 minutes.
Everyone's predictions of 3-0 SKT, they always have the win over SKT. KT are trying to rewrite that and at least pick up game one. We have not had a single series go 1-1 or a single series where it wasn't a whitewash in playoffs in the LCK this year. This could be the start of something for KT Rolster, and they have so much of a gold lead, almost purely from kills, and then you add in 3 Drakes as well. Everything going right for KT Rolster.
What a turnaround. Start of the game, rough around the edges, but they have cut this into a fine diamond for KT Rolster. SK Telecom, almost 11,000 gold behind, 30 minutes into the game. Haven't got a single kill. The only objective that they have is that top tier 1 when they got the first brick. This is nearly a perfect game versus SK Telecom in the semifinal.
And you look down the list of kills and you're like, okay, who's the person we're rewarding? And your eyes can't really look past F. He's 601, but come on, it's the double secret agents here. 006 and 007. Score and Mada have run this game with their hooks, with their initiations. They've been so on form, and they needed to hit those picks when they did because all the talk of SKT in the late game may never happen with how far KT are ahead.
Nature's Grasp coming through, Mada landing yet another hook. Swirl just slam a couple people together, but overall, KT not under very much threat, and they're just going to continue the siege because all of SKT has to peel back to deal with these super creeps that are pushing into the mid and top.
Right now, the map pressure is so one-sidedly in the side of KT Rolster. As you say, 2 waves of super minions pushing in. Lister able do his bidding in the bot lane just fine. Teleport onto the minion to guarantee the last inner turret will go down. Smeb's here as well. They're not going to rely on just Stand United being completed. And KT are knocking on the door of a Game 1 victory.
It's pretty much in their grasp. They look for this final turret here before they get over onto the Nexus. Peanut takes so much damage. The Ren coming through, junking him down to about 1/3 of his HP. Has to retreat back over to the fountain.
KT integrate the base. Faker just has to answer minions, something that Cassidy isn't itemized for and is known as a champion to be able to push up. This is probably the time for SKT where you have to make the panic engage, where you have to make the last stand. The Alamo's not going to be the last inhibitor turret. This could just be 3 inhibitors down for SK Telecom.
Yeah, can't quite walk Deft up comfortably to get in on top of it. Untara in that Meganar form at the moment is still threatening. Score's going to go in deep, however, looking for the kidnap, does find one. In onto Wolf, drags him away as he goes low. Shadow Dash comes through, and he is going to get taken down. Did not have the Unbreakable Will, and now Peanut will be suffering a similar fate. Another Ren might just do it. No, one more auto attack will take him down. Another double kill over to Deft, who seems like he is just having the perfect game, but it's the supporting cast around him that is really enabling it. Mada has been an absolute monster on this Thresh so far. Looking for the killing blow here. Pawn going low, takes quite a bit of damage, but Stand United will keep him healthy. And in the fight, dashes to the side for the pick in onto Antara. Comes up with a knockback. They'll get the pop onto the Zac, but he hasn't gone down yet. Neither has Depp, but Faker finally comes up with the kill, the massive shutdown. But he just delivers himself to death as well. Finally a kill on the board for SK Telecom, but it might be the only one that they see.
Might extend the game though, Achilles. Pawn has to teleport back in if they want to try to finish now. They don't have to be greedy. They're going to go for it anyway. This is definitely the KT way.
Looking for the turnaround. Hook going to go wide for once as Pawn comes in, gets popped up immediately, and Bang has quite a lot of damage to offer up onto that LeBlanc. He has to dash back, keep himself alive, but in the meantime, Antara has fallen. Nexus is exposed. KT will go ahead, hold off for now, but they can just go ahead, scoop up another Baron, another Dragon if they really want it. Go in, give the killing blow to SKT.
You can just see the adrenaline's pumping through the veins of Pawn and the rest of the team. They're taking a much more measured approach to ending the game. Still went for the teleport, wanted to go for the style play, wanted to get the 32-minute completion. Not going to happen here. SKT actually, with how many recalls they know that KT have to push through, is able to get vision around Baron, where if KT had pulled off earlier, would almost have been impossible, would have been a pitfall for Wolf to try to face check enough brushes to get wards on Baron. So they get it here, but KT doesn't necessarily have to go for Baron. It would be the insurance, would be 3 waves potentially of super minions and Baron buff minions coming through. But for now, they're just pushing every lane and then reassessing whether they want to try and end the game here or take the Baron to try to confirm it.
A little bit of pressure alleviated here for SK Telecom as the mid inhibitor has respawned. Pings are out onto the Baron. Already getting started up. That's just going to have a massive amount of Ren stacks into that one as Pawn finds Bang, takes him low, dashes in, one final chain. Will take him down, but can he get out alive? Headbutt Pulverize coming through, dashes over the wall. Baron has gone down. Dark Passage is there for Mata to go ahead and scoop up the LeBlanc, so he stays alive. And seems like it might just be 3 waves of super creeps very shortly here as the inhibitors might just go down again.
We outlined Bang's increased level performance, particularly in the Samsung series with our pre-match graphic from OGN. This game has not been that. He's taken the ultra defensive route of going for barrier, having heal on his AD carry, but being caught too many times, been off on his rocket jumps too many times. He's dead as KT Rolster with those Baron buff minions want to end the game.
They are looking for it score. Going to be overshooting that one as Antara desperately tries to build up the range bar. He needs one hell of a setup to try to turn this around for his team, but he is getting locked down and junked out. Lands the Sun in onto Pawn, pushes Score back towards the fountain, but can't get much more than that. In the meantime, Score has the kidnap onto 2 members as he drags Peanut and Wolf into the fight, but that's just going to be the Nexus going down as KT Rolster very decisively turn things on. 15 minutes forward, they take down SKT in game 1.
Echoes of game 2 versus SKT a couple of weeks ago, where with a Galio comp they were able to pick up a pretty comfortable victory. But this wasn't the same high-octane game. It started slow, it was different. It was the Zac jungle who's much less likely to have the early impact than compared to a Gragas or an Elise. They went for a much more measured early game, was surprised by SKT getting the maximum value out of the first brick, but every move from there, from KT Rolster, catching Bang in the bot lane when he could have just respected that Deft was obviously baiting for a Zac gank. From there, they were able to get the important picks. It felt like Mata had the game, the Puppet Master had the game, and was organizing with how accurate he was on the death sentences. And Score also put off the Zac. So SKT will be back on the blue side on game 3, you'd imagine, with how picks and bans will go. They're going to really have to respect picks like the Zac and Thresh. They went for the Rakan ban this game, and what was left open to KT were the 2 picks that facilitated the victory.
Well, KT Rolster starting things off quite nicely. Sorry, SKT fans, no 3-0 here today. Means that we have a series on our hands potentially, unless KT can, against the run of play, 3-0 SK Telecom. But I don't think any of us anticipate that to happen. But what I'm curious about is what SKT comes back with after the break. Who will we be seeing in that booth?
The picks and bans will adjust. I don't know if the lineup will adjust for game 2, but you're right, it may adjust. But the picks and bans certainly will. There's so many power picks. Kalista, Caitlyn, Zac, Thresh, all available in game 1. There's so many power picks that if you have to adjust, ban a champion from game 1, there's going to be an embarrassment of riches available to replace it.
We'll see what happens when we come back from the break, see what SKT can piece together as they try to fire back, put a win on the board, and make this a series. For now, KT fans can breathe a sigh of relief, but don't get excited quite yet. It's just game number 1 out of the way. When we come back, we'll have game number 2.